Good morning. I apologize for not being at school, but I've had a virus and have just been in the bed most of the week. But I still want us to continue on. I will check all the work that I'm assigning when I get back. That includes the tutorials that I had you to do. So please be sure to save all work. I will check them upon my return. Today what I want you to do is to do at least 8 of on page 727. Some of you may be able to do all 12, and I would expect you to do it because we will do it eventually. So if you get the hang of it, then continue on. I'm going to demonstrate how to do a couple of them. So let's start with number 1 on sheet 727. I'm going to start by opening the file. It's going to be a part file. When I open it, the first thing I need to do is somewhat decide which plane I'm going to use. So looking at number 1 on sheet 727, if I sketched out the front, which is like an L laying down, that would probably be the best one to look at. So what I'm going to do, and I'm trying to get this big on my screen, I've got it open here so I can count. Alright, so okay, alright, here we go. I'm going to start on the front plane. I'm going to start with a line, and I'm going to click here, and if I count my boxes, it is 2, 4, 6, 8 over. 2 up, goes back 6, goes up 3, goes over 2, and closes. Okay, let's do a zoom to fit. That lets me see it a little better. And now I need to put some dimensions on it. So if we see each block is 1/4 of an inch, that would be 2 inches. And then this would be 1/2 inch. And notice I won't have to dimension every side. If I say that's 5, and I do this one, it's 1.25. Watch this turn black. Well, it will eventually. And this is 0.5. Now everything is fully defined because the lines are black, even though I didn't define those, because I know if this is 0.5 and that's 1.25, this has to be 0.75. And if this is 2 and this is 1/2 inch, this is 1.5. So now we're ready to exit the sketch. And again, when I look at how far out it comes, I can see that it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 blocks. So 5 blocks, if they're blocks we're saying is 1/4 of an inch, would be 1.25. So we're beginning to see our shape. Now we need to cut a section out of here. So if I select this face now, and I want to actually cut, so I'm going to use the extrude cut, and I might want to rotate so I can see it. So I use my space bar, look straight on here, and again I could use either a rectangle tool or a line tool. Let's use the rectangle tool. So from here, I know it goes back 4, it goes over 3. So I got that now, but I have to define it. So I have to say from here to here is 0.25. This line is 0.75, and this depth is 0.1. Now I exit the sketch, and we get back out where I can see it because I'm kind of working with. Let me rotate this. I don't have a mouse, so I'm working at somewhat a disadvantage. I brought my computer home, but not my mouse, so I'm doing this with a keyboard. Well, I know that's going to go all the way through, so I'll click that. And if you rotate that, let me okay, that is there. Now we need to do the same thing here. So I select that face, do extrude cut, and again use my rectangle tool. This time I'm not going to rotate, which I think is helpful, but because I don't have a mouse, it's somewhat it's awkward for me to get to it. Again, I want to dimension it to say from this edge to here is 0.25. From this edge here is 0.75, and this is 0.25. Now everything should be fully defined, except this has to be attached to that, and it wasn't. You see that little symbol there, meaning it's coincident. That was why it wasn't fully defined. And now when we exit the sketch, we're going to cut through that. That looks right, so I click OK. And there is part number 1. Okay. Let's look at another one we can do together. And so part number 2 is going to be very similar. It's actually easy. Part 3 is a little different. So let's look at part 3. Well, let's go down because I'll show you some others like that too. Look at part 6. On part 6, is again very similar to the first one. So I would start with my L shape, but this time I would start on the, instead of the front plane, the right plane, because if you look at that L shape, you could make it from the right plane. So when I come here, I would start at the right plane, the L sticks out 5 blocks, goes up 2, comes back 2, goes up 3, actually it goes up 4, so that's okay. I can grab this and move it up 4. Now let's put some dimensions on it. So this would be 1.25. This would be 0.5. This would be 0.75. this again. That would be 1.5, and this would be 0.75. Now, when I look at how far back it goes, it's 8 blocks back. So when I exit, I'm going to extrude that 8 blocks, which would be 2 inches, because each block is 1/4 of an inch. All right. So that's kind of how you see it. Now we've got to cut this section out. So I can select that face, do an extrude cut, use my rectangle tool. I know it's 2 over. It starts here, goes down 3, comes over 4. Now I have to dimension everything. So I have to say from here to here is a 1/2 inch. This should be 1 inch. And this goes down 3/4 of an inch. Now that's all black, which is what I want. When I look at the paper, it goes back in between. So that means it's not a 1/2 inch back, but it's between a 1/2 inch and 1/4, which would be 3/8. So when I exit the sketch, I can, if you remember, 3/8 is 0.375, or you can simply put in 3/8. Now you want to make sure your units are in inches, pounds, and seconds. All right. Okay, so those are 2, and enough to kind of get you started seeing the process. Even if you don't fully get all of them, do your best. I will be back next week. We'll go over what you don't understand, but do as much as you can. Okay? All right. Thank you.